to Universal Theory, where the goal is to find a common language between the abstract and concrete. We are the unorthodox representation of physics and metaphysics. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Trent.
And together, we are Universal Theory.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Universal Theory. I'm your co-host, Trent, joined as always, Jordan. How you doing today, man?
You see it.
I see it. Mm-hmm. I do. Or do I? Is perception... Oh, wait, hold on. We're not going to get into all that. Never mind. You guys were hoping we were going to get on one, weren't you? We're not going to get on one yet. Who do you think we are? All right, so the original series is over. If you haven't seen the 7 Principles series, I will link it above, and I highly recommend you go check it out. We are working on new content. We have an idea for a new series called The Stellar Human, and through that we're going to go through different definitions, different concepts. So it'll probably be something like time, morality, reciprocity, and we will build on those for about an hour and talk about how we perceive these things versus how the stellar human would perceive these things, kind of thing, to give you some insight into what we're working on. But in the meantime, we wanted to vent a little bit. We wanted to make sure that we were giving you content. We wanted to make sure that you weren't going a week without something. So we're going to talk about scientific misnomers. And boy, are there a lot of them. And I thought there were more. There are a lot. We're being careful which ones we choose, whatever. We want to make sure that we are going after specific things that are probably more mainstream, because there's a lot of scientific misnomers. And hey, we're not here to hate. I'm not here to hate. That's the last thing I want to do, is get on here and hate on someone else who's trying to help people. That's not what I'm here for. But what I'm here for, it's a lot of hard work to produce content and to make sure that you're given facts and to reshoot when you say something wrong or whatever, because you're making sure you give the right content to the people. And when people are on here just talking crazy, they're just asking for it. I mean, the videos that we have for you today from I think it's the platform with the highest IQ, TikTok. The people that we have from there today are, pretty well known. And I think these are concepts that maybe you have mixed up in your mind. So hopefully this will clarify some things. But a little bit of housekeeping before we get into that. Just want to say thank you to everybody who's participating, commenting, sharing, liking, is a part of the movement. We're working on the Patreon still. There should be videos up. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to go check out the Patreon and see videos that are more personal experience, maybe more theory, a little bit less data, where we can get a little more fringe. So go check that out. And the merch site is still up. Actually, we just put quite a few more pieces on there. So if you were looking for items that weren't there before, I think we have some toddler stuff, some baby stuff, some long sleeves, just a bunch of extra variations now. So check out Universal Threads. That'll be in the link below as well. And yeah, please remember to like, share, hit the notification bell, because we are dropping shorts all the time on top of our videos. So we are dropping content every day. That's our new thing, is we have it scheduled and content is coming out every day. So we're doing clips 6 days a week and a video on Sundays. And then we're dropping content on Instagram. So follow us over there, on Facebook. We're on TikTok. So, there's content everywhere. So on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification bell and share this content with your friends, with your peers, with somebody maybe you've debated this with, or maybe you just want to share this because somebody's going to watch it, that it's just going to eat them up because they believe that, some of these concepts that we're going to get into. I don't want to spoil anything. So some of these outlandish ideas. But yeah, is there anything you want to touch on before we get into this?
Other than the fact that this is why we do this. Like he said, it's not about hating or trying to inhibit anybody else from being themselves and expressing their ideas as they see them. But we want to create a common language, and we want to break that language barrier. And to do so, we have to be as astute and as accurate as possible when it comes to analyzing data and analyzing it in the proper context. And if you've seen the series on the 7 Hermetic principles, and you've seen the episode on the symbol, and we talked about pairing the 7 principles with the scientific modus operandi, the scientific method. I could say it in another language, but not ours.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you start spitting out other. Yeah.
So if you see that, then that kind of represents what we're doing here. So it's not about discrediting someone for the sake of discrediting them and building up our own platform. It's, once again, we're building this common language and politely putting our Buddhist palm on the
behind,
on the glutamus maximus and minimus of people who may not have really thoroughly analyzed these subjects and these topics and these concepts.
Yeah. Yep. You've seen our videos if you're watching this, and you know we're nice people. We are nice people, but this is just going to be all good fun. And I let's just get to the first one.
So everyone on Physics and Science TikTok has been talking about the Nobel Prize of 2022 that was given to quantum entanglement, finally giving importance to quantum entanglement. So what is this phenomenon? So let's say I have a particle, and I split this particle into 2 particles. Now we have 2 quantumly entangled particles. This means that what I do to one particle, the other particle is aware of. So if I charge this particle with a certain charge, this other particle is going to display the exact opposite charge.
Okay, so we've got a few things here. And, not trying to pick on this individual, like we said, I'm not going to keep saying it. That's the last time I'm going to say it. Now I'm not picking. But, okay, you have a particle and you split it. If there's enough energy there and it's a photon, then sure, but that probably should have been clarified. I mean, you're not just going to take an electron, a fundamental particle, and split it. It's just not how it happens. You would be breaking all sorts of conservation laws. So sure, okay, we have a photon. And then what you do to one thing, you do to the other. This is not true. This is not true. This is not true. You can't charge one and then the other one gets the opposite charge. What happens is, I'm trying not to get worked up. The science guy's we've been talking lately, so I've been feeling his pain. What happens is, as soon as you measure or interact with one of these particles, or, one half of this entangled pair, it loses the entanglement. It's no longer entangled, and I get that a lot of people stop once it's entangled and all this awesome stuff is happening. And they never take the time to explain to the listener that once you measure it and one is spin up or one is spin down and you know what's happening with these 2 photons, that's it. They are no longer connected. Unless on some metaphysical level where we're all connected. Sure. Or, butterfly effect or whatever. But I can't now know what this photon's doing and do something to it, and it happened to this photon over here because they were entangled in the past. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That technology would be crazy.
Yeah.
And I would love to live in a world where that was possible. But that's not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. Is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, it goes to thoroughly researching the experiment, because I was amazed by the experiment when I first heard about it, because I thought that was what was happening.
Oh, that's right.
And I was just like, yo, is this what's happening?
Yeah, but you asked.
Yeah.
You didn't get on TikTok with 100,000 followers or whatever.
No. Yeah, I wasn't trying to mislead the masses. I was trying to figure out for myself if this is possible, because if it is, it implies a lot of things. Like you said, if I live in a world where I can quantumly entangle anything, and then there's like this invisible string, like the 2 cups, and I can, be like, hey, particle, do this, turn into a spaceship.
Right.
Or I could just say change colors or anything.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I can just exchange data without there being any limitation being set for how this information is exchanged, and it's just instantaneous, and it can happen faster than the speed of light. And okay, so yeah, that was pretty big for me too. Like, I would be going crazy too if I would have just ran with it.
Yeah.
But what it makes me think about is how, like you said, metaphysically, if we're connected, so in QFT, quantum field theory, they talk about that from the standpoint of the wave. And that is kind of like as close as it gets for metaphysics and physics to kind of share an ideology. And then the potentiality of something collapsing and then information potentially being produced from something that's comprised of particles that produces electrical and magnetic waves and then interacting with the field. And then that's kind of like where they connect those ideas. Okay, quantum entanglement, QFT, psychism, manifestation, and they connect all these ideas into a pot. And they're like, well, I'm quantumly entangled with you because maybe you've had a scenario where you've been thinking of someone and then they've picked up that thought. And then let's say you used the scientific method, you put it into an experimental setting, and then you can prove that that happens. And it has a high probability rate, and it's beyond, the standard deviation or whatever. And then it's like, okay, bam, we have something here. So I'm not discrediting that. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but what he's saying is, and what we're saying is, that's not quantum entanglement.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. When certain words are used, like Jordan and I, we're trying to build a dictionary. We're trying to make sure, we're trying to get clarification. We have two brothers or sisters that are fighting, and they won't talk to each other. And we're trying to come as another sibling or a parent and say, hey, why are you fighting? Oh, because you said this, but you meant this. All right, that's what you meant. You're fighting over a miscommunication. And that's why it bothers me. It's because of that. It's creating this fight between these two sides of the brain.
I like that.
And that's what we're trying to remove that. All right, let's see what else she's got to say.
And this occurs no matter the distance. They can be 7 miles away or 7 light years away. It does not matter. The information travels from one particle to the other instantaneously. So recap, entangled particles are always interconnected and aware of each other's experiences. So now we're going to connect quantum entanglement with the God particle. What is the God particle? It is called the Higgs boson particle, and they call it the God particle because in order for this particle to exist, there must also exist the Higgs field. So the Higgs boson particle exists everywhere. It is ever present. Wherever there's mass, there's the Higgs boson particle. So in order for this particle to exist, it must exist inside the Higgs field, which is basically the substrate of the quantum universe. It is the quantum field which penetrates everything and anything.
She talked about a lot there. And yeah, we should all be excited about the Higgs particle. And cool little fact, the reason why it's called the God particle is because they were looking for what gave mass. That's what they were looking for. And they called it the God cuss word particle. So that's what it was. And when they found it,
oh wow,
yeah, the publisher or whatever, their media presence was like, let's not say that we found the God dang particle. Let's say that we found the God particle and put a spin on it.
Yeah.
And it was a huge hit, and that was a great idea.
It was.
By that. Yeah, it was marketing for the science. But it has absolutely nothing to do with God. I mean, in the sense of what scientists were looking for. Absolutely nothing. Not in the sense that, we could talk about energy and how that's God or whatever. But in the sense that scientists were looking for the God particle, nope. And when I found that out, I was a little surprised as well. And she's kind of going over this material pretty fast, one because it's a TikTok short, and one because you can tell she doesn't really know. It kind of seems like she's reading a little bit and then like making these crazy conjectures after reading a line from a book. And I think that's very apparent when listening to it. So yes, we found the Higgs boson, which is a particle, which means that it has its connected field. So an electron has the electric field, and we have quarks that have the quark field. So these are particles that are representations of vibrations in a field. So with the Higgs particle or the Higgs boson, which is a type of particle, we can theorize that there is this thing called the Higgs field. And when energy moves through the Higgs field, it is what gives the particle mass. But the problem is that she says that I think what she's saying is that the Higgs particle is everywhere and that energy I think she is a little confused on the difference between a particle and a field. Maybe it's just me not really being able to vibe with what she's saying, but it seems like she's talking about this particle being everywhere. But no, the field is a field in its mathematical or its definition means that it penetrates everywhere in space.
Yes.
So maybe that's what she's saying, is that this Higgs field is everywhere.
Yes. And the fact that, you know, there's a probability for where a particle should be, correct? Not necessarily like, oh, it's distributed equally everywhere and it's present everywhere.
Right. That's exactly right. So, but the field is everywhere.
Yes.
And now we got to make sure that when we think about a particle existing as a wave, that's different than the waves that QFT, right? So there's waves in the field, and those waves are the particle, right? A particle is just waves in the field. But before it is that particle, it exists as a distribution in that field. So there's just a lot of terminology here, and I get why it's hard, and I get why it's stuff that when people start talking about, they turn their brain off. But then you can't do that and then post on TikTok about it. To me, that's just very misleading. And when you're younger and you hear stuff like this, like you were saying, you can just run with it. And we need to make sure we understand what's happening. So, yeah. Is there anything that you want to...
Well, it boils down to being able to truly understand somebody else's theory before you make it yours.
Yeah.
And if we really want to, and I like the concept you said of like a brother and a sister, and I was thinking about like twins. And let's say they were born, you know, they were twins, and then they were separated at birth, and then they were raised up in different cultures, and they had two different languages. And then imagine that when they meet, and they're like, I want to share everything that I ever went through with you, but they can't because they don't speak the same language.
Right.
But they're twins. You
exactly.
know, they're genetically identical, other than like epimutations and, you know, some things that might have happened in the womb and post the womb. But other than that, you know, they just speak different languages, and we're trying to unite that. And the only way to do that is to be as accurate and as astute as possible. So if you are out there and you're listening to someone else's theory, make sure that you understand that theory first.
Yeah.
Before you get to applying your own ideologies to it.
Yeah.
Because your ideology is a program, and you have to be able to set your ideology down when analyzing a novel theory so that you can properly assimilate it. And then that's also going to be relative, because you might not even have the intelligence to do so. And not to say that you can't, because people will say, well, you know, there's different degrees of intelligence. This is a fact. That doesn't mean that you can't reach a higher level intelligence. No. It just means that you may not have it. You may actually have to go to college, or you may have to listen to 1,000 YouTube videos from the people that are professors and proponents of these theories who actually know the math behind it. Because the difference is, these scientists are not stating theories without math.
No, never.
So if you don't know the math, like with me, a lot of stuff I have to ask him because I don't know the math.
Yep.
So if I'm trying to break this theory down, and I'm quite adept at doing things like that, but at the same time, there's still stuff that I don't know and potentially can't know because the math is not there. So I have to ask him, and then he'll be like, oh, well, you know, that is good logic, but you're missing this. Yeah. And this is why this doesn't apply. And if we want to unify these sciences, we need to do something that's practical. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's very much about reaching a consensus. And if you have anything like this, don't feel ashamed, or like tag us in a comment and be like, at Universal Theory, what do you think of this or whatever? I mean, we're a community now, so yeah, if there's something that's maybe math heavy and you want my input, just tag us. If it's something that may be more concept heavy, logical driven, just tag us and Jordan will get on there and watch it, and we'll definitely break it down for you. So you don't end up in this kind of a conundrum, or you don't end up falling for this kind of shenanigans. That's all it is.
Yeah, and one more thing. When people are doing these videos, and not to say that this individual or any of the individuals that we're about to show had ill intention, but a lot of times it's someone hears something on TikTok or on Instagram or one of these social media platforms, and they just run with it because they want to impress other people, or they want to be accepted, or they want to build up prestige, and or they want to build up their platform and they want to generate money. I'm not knocking any of those reasons. I'm just saying that what we are doing is for the conscious community, and that goes for both physics and metaphysics. So the reason why we're doing this is to inspire people to dig deeper and not just accept this, because the internet has been very good for us, like our advancement, but also detrimental, because now we can do a very short video and our attention spans got shorter, and then now we don't even want to do any real research.
Yeah. Yep. If it's longer than a minute, we're not really messing with it.
Yep.
All right, let's see what else she's got.
It acts as the medium for particles to gain mass, because if it weren't for this medium, for this quantum substrate of the universe, particles would just be flying at the speed of light and would never ever stop due to its massless nature. So because this fabric holds all things together, it simultaneously connects all things together. And this is where we go back to quantum entanglement. Einstein and physicists still call quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance, and they call it weird and strange. But it's because they don't truly understand what it means for the nature of reality.
This is true. They didn't know what it meant for the nature of reality, but she doesn't either. That's that's just what's going on right now. So it's not that it's not this. The problem is she's thinking these things are still connected. So yes, that is very true that you can say Einstein said spooky action at a distance, but he was saying it because of the math versus the physics, and it wasn't together yet. The logic and all of those components were not, and still are not, whole. There's still debates on what happens. So that's why it's one of the biggest places inside of science where there's like this incompleteness. So in order to accept that, of course, these scientists are going to say spooky action at a distance. And I would hate to think that she thinks she knows more about quantum physics than Einstein did. I don't think that's what she's saying, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what this chick is saying.
Yeah.
So I think she's about to bring it home. Do you want to?
Well, yeah. So just hearing it, and I'm thinking, well, there's so many people that believe that quantum entanglement is this form of psychism. And like we said, it might not be the right verbiage. So there are other things that can potentially scientifically validate psychism or telepathy or some of these other things, and there'll have to be some research done on this. People will actually have to go into a scientific setting. Even if you can prove it at your house or in your environment, we still need to make it tangible so it's a workable science.
Yes, exactly.
So, but I was going to say, they got a Nobel Prize for this, which means there's math involved. A lot of math. More math than most of us can imagine.
Yes.
And then thinking about, well, if they get a Nobel Prize for proving that everything can be entangled, stay entangled, and we can communicate. Okay, that's an even bigger prize.
Yeah.
Like they're going to give them the prize of prizes.
Oh, yeah. They just,
if that
you
was
win.
the case. Yes.
Yeah, you win. You figured it out. And that might be the next step at some point, that there is this holistic prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, that solves this conundrum. But yeah, that's right. Exactly. There was years and years of math behind this. And there's another thing she talked about before we finish this video, where she's talking about these particles would move at the speed of light forever without the Higgs particle. And particles don't move at the speed of light. Photons do, and we call photons particles, massless particles. So if she understands that, that's fine, but you shouldn't just say particles would then move at the speed of light forever, because if you have mass, you can't reach the speed of light. So to clarify what she was just saying, once you're moving through the Higgs field, you will never move through with outside of that field again. So you will always exist within this Higgs field, or that energy could transfer outside of it, but that particle as it exists will never exist outside of that Higgs field. So it will never move at the speed of light. But using the word particle in that sense was a little crude. So that's just a little like, oh, now everybody's going to think that particles like electrons or, protons or any kind of particle would just move at the speed of light. And that's just not the
they
case.
wouldn't even be those particles.
Thank you. That's basically, yeah. Yep. Which causes some confusion.
Yeah.
We have to realize that if you think of the universe as something separate and that things are inherently separate from each other, then seeing two things instantaneously connect and communicate with each other at light year distances are going to seem weird. So this is when we have to redefine what is the nature of reality. We have to realize that there is no such thing as independent, isolated phenomena. Everything is interdependent and interconnected because it is literally all the same thing. And the Higgs field is what allows us to realize this without breaking the laws of physics. If energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed, and everything is interconnected, then what we truly are as energetic beings cannot be separated from this all, nevertheless destroyed.
So actually what she was saying there at the end was...
Yes, non-locality.
Yeah.
Which they did prove.
Yep.
But this is a good point is, I want to make this for you, make your point.
Sure.
So you can come to a... I found this out in logic. If you've seen our episode where we talk about... we were locked up, and when I was locked up, I used to read a lot of stuff. And so... non-locality, like I said, they just proved that non-locality is real. Mm-hmm. In logic, you can come to a sound conclusion. You can accidentally have a sound conclusion without having any logic involved. Or you can have all, what I mean? If you have logic, then you have logical conclusions. But sometimes you can have a logical conclusion without having logic involved. It's like you might accidentally make a logical conclusion, like, okay, non-locality, that's real, but now your reasoning for non-locality are not accurate. This is not the reason why that it's non-local. Yes. These are just things that you thought, and then it might have enabled you to get to that concept of, non-locality. It's like, well, that's probably not how they prove non-locality.
Right. No, yeah, that's exactly right. She is using a scientific concept to prove a spiritual concept, and the spiritual concept is right, but the scientific concept is wrong. And I do think, what we just watched at the end of that video, she said some great things. Energy, in our past videos, we've talked about energy, and it is this thing that can't be created nor destroyed. It is this thing that transfers between the fields. It is the closest thing we're going to get to understanding what the fundamental nature of reality is, or it's as close as we are right now. And in my mind, and as we've talked about in previous episodes, energy is like God, right? That is kind of the God of this universe, this existence. So it's just kind of amazing how what she says at the end is almost profound, and I don't mind giving her flowers because she did have some reasonable or some great points at the end about energy and how separation is an illusion. And we're all kind of moving through this Higgs field as energy, but we've gained mass now. And so we're not that much different from light. The only difference between us and light is this Higgs field. So that was a great point, but anybody in the academic community is instantly going to discredit this and not get to that.
Yes.
Because they're like, what? Quantum entangled particles are being split. And first of all, the only thing that can happen to is a photon. And she's talking about, it's like right then.
Yes.
Before she gets into, and you can do one thing to the other and it does it to, like before she gets into all that stuff. And yeah, the non-local part. And those are like great points at the end. And it just is sad that, people aren't even going to make it there that understand the science.
Yes. Same way with metaphysics. If a physicist was to approach metaphysics purely from a physical standpoint, then let's say they misquote the metaphysician. They're going to, kind of be the same way. Like, well,
sure.
I'm not even going to hear you out because you're telling me, like, up until recently, we weren't sure about non-locality.
Yeah. Well, we had an idea. Yeah.
So now we are sure. Sure as in there was math.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have all the math, so we weren't sure. Like, yeah, we had some concepts, we had some notions. Physicists are the modern philosophers with math.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Because people think, physicists are all super dry and heavy, math heavy. And it's like, they are very math heavy, and math can be very dry, and that's a perspective-based thing. But you have a lot of theoretical physicists who spend, we just talked about this, their whole lives around a concept that just isn't true.
Yeah.
And then they disprove it themselves. They spend their whole life trying to disprove this theory, and then they disprove it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of rigor that comes with math and with science, as you know, if you've taken any of the courses or in high school. So that can create somewhat of a drier personality, or it can create walls or shields or barriers or whatever from erroneous ideas trying to penetrate. And even if they are a good idea, if there isn't some sound data behind it, then you can't really mess with it. It's like, we're not ready for that yet because we don't have all the tech and we don't have all the data. So let's just build our way to that as opposed to jumping to it. So that's the first video, and I think we did a pretty good job breaking that down. We got time if we want to run through one more quick one. Let's run through one more quickly.
If you realize that there are an infinite number of parallel realities, it means there are an infinite number of parallel versions of Earth that coexist simultaneously right now. So he's basically saying you never actually change the world you're on. You change yourself and you shift yourself incrementally to different versions of Earth that already exist that are more and more and more reflective of the change you make within you.
When I hear this, I'm like, okay, so he's saying that, one, he's saying that he's channeling some spirit or an extraterrestrial or something. I'm not sure what he's channeling or who he's channeling or if he's channeling. But he's talking about when I shift my thoughts or my emotions or my mindset or my behavior and so on, I'm changing to an entirely different universe that fits this particular frequency of activity. And now, and he even goes on to say that there may be people, that have shifted and they're there too, or they exist on the parent planet and the universe that you existed in, and so I'm like, it's kind of like the many worlds theory.
Yeah.
Except for without the physics.
Everett.
Yes, the Everett theory. It's without the physics, without the math. It's just saying, hey, when I change a thought, and we talked about this, where every time that you change a thought, you're shifting to an entirely different universe. So now you're taking away a lot of things.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. So, I'm shifting to an entirely different universe every time. Well, that's all the time. Yeah. I would never be in the same universe, ever.
Right. And what's crazy is that the Everett interpretation of the many worlds theory allows for essentially an infinite amount of universes, because energy, it has to do with energy and energy being conserved. So if you create another one, then energy is still conserved in itself. So,
but you're not shifting.
But no, right. So it's like, okay, you get this idea of this math, and then it allows for it, but then he plays on infinity. So he's playing on this idea of infinity, and a lot of cool things can happen with that inside of infinity. But what kind of gets me is, even if I understand that my perception is an illusion, well, if I understand that, then why am I shifting? So I don't understand why I would even need to. It's like he's hopping over this barrier that I don't even see that exists. Because if my perception is an illusion and that's why I don't notice that I'm shifting to another universe, then why am I even shifting at all? And if it's because I'm making some choice, and then because I made that choice, someone else had to make the other choice, another version of me had to make another choice, another version of me had to stand still. Well, what if that other version of me didn't want to stand still and it wanted to go the same direction as me, but it couldn't? Then who wins? So to me, there's too many of these. It's very egocentric. It's very like, oh, I have a bunch of clones and they're going to do whatever I don't want to in these other universes. But yet, if they're exact copies, how could they be clones of you without the same agency that you have? It just, from those first couple seconds.
That the physics is identical in every one of those universes, and then your consciousness somehow is like a video game where it's like a slideshow, like those old things used to put on, you just move the picture, except for like it's a more advanced form of technology where if I change, and then how small does the change have to be? Right. How big does the change have to be? And then, like you said, I'm forcing everyone else to move. I kick this guy out of his body.
Yep.
That's my body, technically, because they're all clones or replicas. And I kick him out of his body. And now, this goes on infinitely. And right now, I could be shifting through an infinite amount of universes. And like he said, in infinity, yes, anything is possible. That's why we stick to the science and we stick to the math, because there are also an infinite amount of universes where things will have proofs. And you can't prove that. Like, how would you ever know? As soon as you go to do the experiment, you're in an entirely different universe.
Right.
And then, you know what I mean? Every time you try to do the experiment, something changes and you're never going to get any solid results.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's like, it's kind of like a safe bet. It's kind of like if I was to be like, because infinity is a thing, I don't exist, and I'm in your mind,
right?
And you're the only person that exists, and nothing else exists. And I could say that because you couldn't argue it, because one, there is no math for you to really argue against it.
Yeah,
and it's infinite, so I could say that. And we talked about this before, like how many infinite versions of infinity are there? With infinite different complexities, where we could never really know if any one of them are real or not.
Yeah.
Even if we're in them. It could be the universe where everything appears to be real, but it's not real, but it appears to you as if it is real to make you believe it's real, when really, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you start to think about infinity, there's definitely, especially if you spend some time on it, there's definitely some things that can pop out that make it a little strange or scary, and where it makes it to where, does my logic even make sense?
Exactly.
Because there's a world where my logic makes sense to me, but it's the opposite of what's actually happening, and that's the scary part about it. But we have to try to use the principles to navigate, and we have to try to use Occam's razor, I think, is a great tool. So the simplest answer is the most logical answer, and our body is full of trillions of particles, and the quantum fluctuations is an uncountable amount of particles that are popping in and out of existence. So if those particles don't pop in and out, or something decays on our body because it has a half-life and we never know when something's going to decay, does that mean that there's already been trillions of versions of me that have existed right here because of something like that? Like, where does the scale stop?
Yes. And then how would I ever pay a debt?
Yeah.
Like, how would there be a karma? Because I'm always shifting between infinite universes.
Right.
It's like, you know, it's a lot of things in one. It's kind of just like I said, it's like a safe bet.
Yeah, I wish you would have said like the wave, or if you'd have started talking about kind of the superposition or the wave.
Even
then
it's like, yes, it would make more sense from the standpoint of infinity, and maybe there is some math in one of these theoretical groups of physicists where they're like, well, yeah, that could be the case, but I like to think that there are more theories that are more sound and relate to some of the data that we already have than just throwing one out there that says, hey, because it's like I said, it's not something you can prove.
Yeah.
It's like, how would you know?
Yeah.
How would you know that? Like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Like, what type of being are you in tune with?
Right.
And it's like, it's telling you that that's the case.
Well, maybe the being, I mean, if it's telling him about infinity, he could just be misinterpreting it. I don't know if he knows some being that's telling him something, but he could very well be misinterpreting the message, and now he's trying to portray this message, and he's fumbling.
Yes.
So, because of what Jordan just said, because there's more sound conclusions you can come to about this, and it is popular right now. So, I don't know. Let's want to see what else he's got to say.
Yes.
All right.
People may still exist on the world you left behind, but you may never interact again because they may actually be on another vibrational level of Earth that exists simultaneously with the one you've shifted to. And when you think of yourself as an indestructible, eternal, infinite being, nothing is ever really lost.
So, I mean, yeah, what he's saying there at the end, I mean, he talks about never being able to see an individual again, but you never interacted with the same individual for more than a millisecond.
Yes.
And so you're never really getting to know anybody.
Yes.
In the essence of that.
And
so,
how would you ever know? How would you know that you didn't bump into those beings again? How do you know that you all are not making that shift and you all are going to the same place every time?
Right. Yeah.
There's so many different ways to interpret it. That's why I really just don't like that theory.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, one, I'm a metaphysician. So, and I've had my experiences. And even though not all of them are data based, I like to think about like the law of conservation and karma and reincarnation and what, you know, some of the masters have said about meeting souls that you've been connected with and pairing with these energies from life to life and reaping what you sow and this entire ascension process. And what he has done is he's just entirely stepped out of that and said, I'm going to monetize off of the concept of infinity.
yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I'm going to monetize off of this concept of infinity, and I'm going to make up my own version of it.
Yeah.
And I can do that right now. Right now, I'm shifting through an infinite amount of universes, and every time that I urinate, it rains urine in at least one of the universes. And it's true, like, because in infinity, you can't prove me wrong.
Wow, you're going after him now.
I'm not trying to go after him. I'm just saying that this is the type of stuff that I strategically avoid when it comes to science. Because if that, let's say that theory was true, nothing that we do will ever matter because we'll never know if any of it actually matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the scary part. It's definitely, I think we picked two good videos. We picked one that was, you know, kind of misrepresenting physics, and then one that misrepresents metaphysics, even though the math is there with the Everett interpretation.
Well, in the Everett interpretation, though, you're not shifting.
No, but the math of an infinite amount of worlds being able to exist.
Exactly. And that's why I said he's playing on that concept. It's like, let me take the Everett interpretation where I'm still here in this universe, but now there are other infinite branches of probabilities and options that could that happened because this one thing didn't happen, an infinite amount of other things did happen. Yeah. And this is one of the infinite things that did happen or didn't happen and so on. And then let me play on that, and then let me just say that I'm shifting to an entirely different universe infinitely every time, like he said, every millisecond or every fraction of a millisecond. Like I said, how small does this go? How high does it go? Like, is it every 60 seconds? Is it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everything, Everywhere, or Everywhere, Everything, All at Once was a cool movie, but it was just that, right? It was a movie, and because there's certain things popular in the mainstream media, you will have people that either, what Jordan said, there's multiple reasons behind why they're doing things like this. And for some reason, if this guy ever wanted to, I'm sure he has plenty of people that critique it, but if he ever wanted to talk about this, we'd be glad to talk with this individual about this.
Come on our show, please.
Yeah.
I want to hear how you came to this conclusion.
Yeah, and maybe we could try to resolve some of these differences. But let us know down in the comments below if you like this version of these episodes. We're thinking about doing a smaller version of this at the beginning of every episode. So it would be, watching a video and then us quickly breaking it down. So let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you like this kind of banter and this kind of playful picking on different communities, or if you want us to stick straight to the facts, straight to the videos, and we'll definitely take that into consideration. Also, let us know if you want to hit that like button. That was a terrible one, but I wasn't going to let you take that from me. Don't let us know. Just do it. Live in the universe where you hit that like button and so you shift into that universe.
Yes.
Where you hit the like button, because in that universe, you're going to win $1 million tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you might hit that button in every universe.
Yeah, you might.
And then we're popular everywhere.
Everywhere. That's true. So hit it as you're shifting. That's the goal.
Yes. Yep.
Hit it as you're shifting somewhere else.
As you're shifting from the infinite different versions of yourself per every fraction of a millisecond, make sure you quantumly entangle your finger with the
button.
share button and the like button and the comment button. Yes.
Yes. As we see so gracefully on the splash screen behind us.
Yes, and make sure you use the Higgs boson field as well, or you might not actually touch the button.
Oh my gosh, we're out of here. Peace. We love you.
Don't talk to me, it's off to me, assault police. The archer screams, my carpentry is carpeting for all of these. False MCs, I chalk the scene, I'm Charlie Sheen. I darken dreams, the carpet bleeds, my pulpit leaves. A scar with your whole face like a Carter scene. I go hard cause the car to me. You ain't hard as he, or the yard hate. Bar hate, it's the Nazarene. Choking line with a main, I'm a martyr king, yeah. I'm a god, so it's all with me. Pull at your heart, I'm chewing at your arteries. Damn, for the artistry, the artist bleeds, I'm martyring. Your darling, it's all with me, get lost at sea. Shout the priest, stomp the beast, I do not play, it's often seen. I'm off the boat, got a blade on me, homie, I'm off the go. I don't know, but you niggas put them off the dose, or off the smoke, a cough, a choke, a puke up a cough, and so